What's going on, YouTube? In this week's dosage, two state representatives intensely reprimand Biden's appointed chief of Secret Service Kim Cheadle. Police released the body cam footage of the shooting of SONYA MASSEY. A German woman says that black women are no competition when it comes to dating. And during a street interview, a woman admits that she's married to a lazy, unambitious, and incompetent bum. Ingest and enjoy. Now, most of us are already aware and have been fully briefed on the assassination attempt of Donald Trump out in Butler, Pennsylvania. And many were left to wonder, how was that shooter even able to get close enough and get a shot off? What was the Secret Service doing? And as many of you know, the head of the Secret Service is a woman by the name of Kim Cheadle. And me personally, I think women are incompetent when it comes to positions of authority and power, especially in something as stringent and important as the Secret Service. Now, I've said multiple times, Kim Cheadle herself is incompetent. She just simply appears incompetent. As a matter of fact, the way I knew that it was Kim Cheadle was that I once Googled the definition of incompetent, and there her picture was right there on Google beside the word incompetent. And apparently I'm not the only one critical of her inexcusable lapse in judgment and lack of action that she took when the shooter attempted to assassinate Trump. Kim Cheadle had to sit before Congress and the House of Oversight Committee to answer for her egregious lapse in judgment, even though she struggled to do that. They grilled her and they even called for her to resign. Here's Texas Representative Pat Fallon holding her feet to the fire.
Here now recognizes Mr. Fallon from Texas.
How did a 20-year-old loner with a week's notice pick the absolute best location to assassinate President Trump when the entire Secret Service missed it? Director Cheadle, in your leadership, your agency got outsmarted and outmaneuvered by a 20-year-old. How can we have any confidence that you could stop a trained professionals from a nefarious nation state?
Those are absolutely questions that we need to have.
I know they're questions, but the fact of the matter is we can't have that confidence. Director, do you have the ability personally, do you have the authority to beef up security of any of your protectees?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So were you also aware there was a credible threat President Trump was facing? He was facing a heightened security threat to a foreign adversary?
Yes.
Okay. So given that there was an increased threat to President Trump's life, was he provided a full security complement akin to what a sitting U.S. president would receive?
He was provided a full complement of security based on the threat assessment that we had.
That's not my question.
And the venue.
My question is, if he'd been the sitting president, would he have had the same security he had on July 13th, or would have been beefed up?
There is a difference between the sitting president.
So your answer is he didn't.
And continuity of government and the responsibility
that we have.
So he did
not. Okay, there wasn't a CAT team, a full CAT team on site. There wasn't counter surveillance teams on site. But this is the thing. You just said you had the ability to beef up the security. You knew about the threat, and you didn't. And that's as telling as it is chilling.
That's as telling as it is chilling. I agree with State Representative Pat Fallon, because that's completely inexcusable. You have the power, you have the authority to beef up the security, to do everything, take every precautionary step, every preventative measure to make sure that something like this doesn't occur, and it occurs on your watch. And she can't answer a direct question. She's sitting there with this dumbfounded look on her face. She doesn't appear to be the least bit sorry, sympathetic, compassionate, or passionate about her work. And this is why I say women are just not equipped to be in positions like this. They're just not equipped to be in a position as significant as the chief of Secret Service overseeing the security detail of the President of the United States, the most powerful person on the planet. If anything, if there had to be a woman, I want it to at least be a woman who thinks she's a man. Give me some rough woman. Give me a dyke. Give me a woman who thinks she can do 100 push-ups straight and thinks that she's a better shooter than the best snipers in the armed forces. Give me a woman who is at least delusional enough to believe that she's competent enough to be the chief of Secret Service and competently perform that task with all its roles and responsibilities. But Pat Fallon went easy on her because the next state representative that had something to say was South Carolina State Representative Nancy Mace. And she let loose. I mean, she said what it is that she fucking felt.
Most of my questions are going to demand a yes or no answer. Do you understand?
I do.
Okay, my first question. Both sides of the aisle today have asked for your resignation. Would you like to use my 5 minutes to draft your resignation letter, yes or no?
No, thank you.
Was this a colossal failure?
It was a failure.
Yes or no? Was it a colossal failure is the question, yes or no?
I have admitted this is a terrible.
This is a yes or no series of questions. Was this a colossal failure, yes or no?
Yes.
Was this tragedy preventable, yes or no?
Yes.
Has the Secret Service been transparent with this committee?
Yes.
Would you say the fact that we had to issue a subpoena to get you to show up today as being transparent, yes or no?
I have always been.
Yes or no? You didn't
and
want to
talk
answer the
the
question.
committee.
We had to issue a subpoena to get you to show up today. That is not transparent, by the way. You stated earlier, Secret Service is not political. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Would you say leaking your opening statement to Punchbowl News, Politico's Playbook, and Washington Post several hours before you sent it to this committee as being political, yes or no?
I have no idea how my statement got out.
Well, that's bullshit. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask unanimous consent to enter into the record articles by Punchbowl News, Political Playbook, Washington Post, all done at 5:24 a.m., 6:12 a.m., 6:34 a.m., a solid 3 to 4 hours before this committee got your statement.
Without objection, so ordered.
Okay. Is the Secret Service fully cooperating with our committee?
Yes.
Okay, you say you're fully cooperating with this committee. On July 15th, this committee sent you a list of demands of information that we wanted. Has the Secret Service provided this committee a complete list of all law enforcement personnel that were there that day? Have you done that? Have you provided a list to the Oversight Committee? Yes or no?
I will have to get back to you on that.
That is a no. Have you provided all audio and video recordings in your possession to this committee, as we asked on July 15th, yes or no?
I would have to get back to you.
That is a no. You're full of shit today. You're just being completely dishonest. Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman,
I want to.
Nancy Mace just completely eviscerates her. She didn't pull a single punch. And as she should. I mean, everyone has the right to be upset because, as I said, this is inexcusable. This cannot be allowed to happen. There was no way in hell that this should have been allowed to happen. And the fact that they're calling for her resignation and she still doesn't want to resign just speaks to the lack of accountability and the lack of acknowledgement that she gives to her own level of incompetence in this situation. Because as the chief of Secret Service, how can you feel that you need to continue your job after a bullet grazed your primary presidential candidate? How can you feel that it is within the best interest of the country to continue to have you at the head of that position? That's a selfish move. That's a selfish move. And as they said, she had to be subpoenaed in order to show up there. This woman is fully responsible. She knows damn well that she's fully incapable of continuing to be in this position. Now, if Trump is elected and she's in this position, if she doesn't resign, we know he's going to fire her ass. We know he's going to fire her ass. Because for one, Trump is sexist, just like I am. And he knows that a woman shouldn't be in this position to begin with. But then two, man got shot on her watch. This happened with her security detail. There's no coming back from that. There's no resolution we can come to that allows you to still be in position as the head, the chief of Secret Service, while I'm in office and I got shot under your security detail. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You know, it's pretty incredible. We know incompetence hires incompetence. Biden hired this woman. Biden appointed this woman as the chief of Secret Service. Because, well, Biden is in such an underwhelming condition, so cognitively deficient, that nobody would want to take Biden out anyway. So he can afford to have an incompetent female as the chief of Secret Service. There's nothing really for her to worry about because everybody knows that Biden's time is on the clock. It's almost up. The guy can't even remember his name. He can't remember the immediate information about himself. His name, his birthday, who his wife is, or the name of his dogs. He can afford to hire a chief of Secret Service as incompetent as Kim Cheeto is. But everyone is aware that this woman cannot continue to be in the position and hold the job title that she holds. Because next time the shooter might not miss. And if she's this lackluster when it comes to the level of accountability that she must hold herself to, and everyone else has to do it for her, then there's no reason to believe that there wasn't some ulterior motive, or she doesn't have some covert disgust or disdain for Trump to even allow this to occur. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not one to support most conspiracy theories, but there's just something about the level of apathy that exudes from her as she sits there and she's scrutinized about what she allowed to occur at the Trump rally. So just sitting there examining her body language and the lack of passion, sense of urgency that seems to be present in her aura, I can confidently speculate that she may have wanted Trump to be assassinated. Because to me, it just makes no sense as to why the precautionary measures, the preventative measures, wasn't increased, or at least reports of the shooter being on the roof or in close proximity to Trump wasn't taken with more urgency and seriousness. Now, back on July 6th of 2024, a 36-year-old black woman by the name of SONYA MASSEY called Springfield deputies to her house as she was scared that there was someone lurking outside her premises. And how did that night end? With SONYA MASSEY dead. And social media erupted in outrage yet again as another black individual was killed by police. And on the surface, it appears to be unjustified. It appears that the police officer did much more than he was supposed to do, or he could have handled the situation in an alternative manner. So the usual race baiters, the call for racism being the motive for why she was shot, why she was killed, has been the narrative that has been circulating social media for the past couple weeks. Well, the body cam footage wasn't released at that point, but yesterday it was. And the body cam footage revealed the gruesome video that I'm going to show you guys, so just be prepared, of SONYA MASSEY being shot after cops went in her house and felt threatened by a pot of boiling water that she had on the stove. And they shot her after they told her to put it down, and she apologized, appearing that they shot her in bad faith. Let's take a look at the video.
You have an ID? That'd make things so much easier. I just driver's license will do, and then I'll get out of your hair.
I want to show y'all my paperwork.
I will look at your paperwork.
What paperwork?
Okay. I got some paperwork.
Well, just get your ID real
Well, let's
quick.
get your ID first, and then...
One task at a time here.
Okay. Let me
Here, grab your ID for me.
Okay.
Your ID. One task at a time. So let's do an ID, and then you can dig around for your paperwork.
I don't know where my ID
You
is.
got in that stack right there, maybe?
1 second.
Just check on the paper.
Let me get this.
We don't need a fire while we're here.
Right. Let me see. Okay. Where you going?
Huh?
Where you going?
Away from your hot steaming water.
Away from my hot steaming water?
Yeah.
Oh, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
Huh?
I rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
Better fucking not. I swear to God, I'll fucking shoot you right in your fucking face.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Drop the fucking pot! Drop the fucking pot! Drop the fucking pot!
19 shots fired.
Shots fired! Shots fired! Drop the fucking pot! Bring EMS now. We got a headshot wounded female. Headshot wounded female. 1078. Fuck.
I was on. I'm gonna go get my kit.
No, headshot, dude. She's done. You can go get it, but that's a headshot. God damn it.
God, fuck.
So that was the body cam footage. Now, every time there's an occurrence of a police shooting a black individual, I try to remain as rational and objective as possible because naturally the human biases will take over. It's an extremely emotional occurrence for most people, especially those that believe that the cops are racist and they're just out here hunting black people, offing black people simply for their pleasure because they hate black people. I try to remain rational, I try to remain objective, and I try to give most occurrences the benefit of the doubt until I can at least scrutinize it a bit more, examine what actually occurred. Now, on its surface, this does appear to be an unjustified overreaction, but there was another clip that was released. But before we go to that clip, I just want to explain to you guys so you guys get a more thorough understanding of what actually transpired going on with this whole case between SONYA Massey and the deputy that shot her, because he is currently been charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. Body cam video reveals chaotic scene of deputy fatally shooting SONYA Massey, who called 911 for help. SONYA Massey ducked and apologized to an Illinois sheriff's deputy seconds before he shot the black woman 3 times in her home, with 1 fatal blow to the head as seen in the body camera video released Monday. An Illinois grand jury indicted former Sangamon County Sheriff's Deputy Sean Grayson, 30, who was white, last week. He has pleaded not guilty to charges of first-degree murder, aggravated battery with a firearm, and official conduct. The video confirmed prosecutors' earlier account of the tense moment when Grayson yelled from across the counter at Massey to set down a pot of hot water. He threatened to shoot her. Massey ducked, briefly rose, and Grayson fired his pistol at her. Authorities said Massey, 36, had called 911 earlier to report a suspected prowler. The video shows the 2 deputies responded just before 1 a.m. on July 6 at her home in Springfield, 200 miles southwest of Chicago. They first walked around the house and found a black SUV with broken windows in the driveway. It took Massey 3 minutes to open the door after deputies knocked, and she immediately said, "Don't hurt me." She seemed confused as they spoke at the door, and then she repeated that she needed help, referenced God, and told them that she didn't know who owned the car. Inside the house, deputies seemed exasperated as she sat on the couch and went through her purse as they asked for identification to complete a report before leaving. Then Grayson pointed out a pot sitting on a flame on the stove. "We don't need a fire while we're here," he said. Massey immediately got up and went over to the stove, moving the pot near a sink. She and Grayson seemed to share a laugh over her pan of steaming hot water before she unexpectedly said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. You better not. I swear to God, I'll shoot you in the face." He then pulls a 9mm pistol and demanded she drop the pot. Massey responds, "Okay, I'm sorry." In Grayson's body cam footage, he pointed his weapon at her. She ducked and raised her hands. Grayson was still in the living room facing Massey and separated by a counter dividing the living room and the kitchen. Prosecutors have said the separation allowed Grayson both distance and relative cover from Massey and the pot of hot water. After Grayson shot her, Grayson discouraged his partner from grabbing a medical kit to save her. "You can go get it, but that's a headshot," he said. "There's nothing you can do, man." He added, "What else can we do? I'm not taking hot, boiling water to the face." Noting that Massey was still breathing, he relented and said that he would get his kit too. The other deputy said, "We can at least try to stop the bleeding." Grayson told responding police, "She had boiling water and came at me with boiling water. She said that she was going to rebuke me in the name of Jesus and came at me with boiling water." During a Monday afternoon news conference, the family's lawyer, civil rights attorney Ben Crump, and Grayson's revisionist justification disingenuous. "She needed a helping hand. She did not need a bullet to the face," Crump said of Massey. Asked why Massey told Grayson, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus," Crump said she had undergone treatment for mental health issues. He noted that she invoked God's name from the beginning of the encounter and asked for her Bible after the deputy stepped inside. During Massey's funeral on Friday, Crump said the video, which he and the family had already viewed, would shock the conscience of America. Massey's father, James Wilburn, demanded the county court system be completely open in its investigation and prosecution and transparent with the public. "The only time I will see my baby again is when I leave this world," Wilburn said. "And I don't ever want anybody else in the United States to join this league." Grayson, who was fired last week, is being held in the Sangamon County Jail without bond. If convicted, he faces prison sentences of 45 years to life for murder, 6 to 30 years for battery, and 2 to 5 years for misconduct. His lawyer, Daniel Fultz, declined to comment Monday. In a statement, President Joe Biden said he and First Lady Jill Biden were praying for Massey's family as they face this unthinkable and senseless loss. We can call for help. All of us as Americans, regardless of who we are or where we live, should be able to do so without fearing for our lives. Sonya's death at the hands of a responding officer reminds us that all too often Black Americans face fears for their safety in ways many of the rest of us do not. Massey's death is the latest example of Black people killed in recent years by police in their homes. So I try to be as objective as possible when it comes to these occurrences. And no matter what the media tries to perpetrate or propagate, the reality is 99% of police Black individual interactions go without harm, happen without anyone being shot or dying. These are very rare instances where a cop will fear for his life and will act out of fear. Now, I reviewed the film and I'm going to play it for you guys. I slowed it down so we can actually see what happened with regards to her coming at him with a boiling pot of water. Did she try to throw it on him? Was there an attempt to throw it on him? Or was she really innocent and did she really surrender her hands? Now you guys will notice when we go back to the video, in the frame you can't see her behind his arm, so we can't see what she actually did. We seen her duck when they say get down and she apologized as she disappears out of sight, but then we see him back up and she appears again, which means she did something when she popped back up, which warranted him shooting her. Now we can make the argument it's a pot of boiling water. It won't. Well, a pot of boiling water can do a lot of damage. It can cause disfigurement, third-degree burns, and it can kill you if you have complications from the burns that it causes. So there's definitely plausible fear there, which is what many people seem to be missing, as they always miss in these controversial cases, that there's almost always plausible fear. It's almost always a justifiable reason why the cop lets off a shot. And this is why the cops actually end up getting off, not because the system is racist and they don't want to put cops in jail and the cops are the biggest gang in the world who just want to hunt Black people down and kill Black people just to see Black people die, just because, when, as I said, most of the time most police interactions with criminals are with Black people, and the majority of the time no one ends up dead or hurt. So let's take a look at the clip in slow motion to see what actually happened that we couldn't see at its regular frame speed. Okay, so as you guys can see there, looks like she tosses the pot of water at him and the water lands on the floor right there. I slowed it down a little more. She rises up, there's the pot. She tosses the pot at him. So you guys can see that she does throw the pot of water at him. This is indisputable. She throws the pot of water at him, boiling hot water, and you can see when I slow it down a little more, it lands in front of him right there. Right there. So she throws it at him. Now we often forget, because we often are biased towards Black individuals as Black people, that cops are human beings too, and just because they're white doesn't make them any less of human beings. They still exhibit fear. They still have fear-induced moments and reactions to stimuli that elicit those fear-based reactions. And if someone is about to throw a pot of hot boiling water on you, what would you do in that instance? People, why didn't he tase her? It's a pot of boiling hot water. The immediate threat was that if it hits him, his life could be in jeopardy as well. He could sustain life-threatening injuries if he got scalded by a pot of boiling hot water. So do you take that chance? Do you take that chance because you didn't sit back and assess in a split second the negative ramifications of your actions, or what's going to be the public's perception of you as an officer shooting a Black woman who threw a pot of boiling hot water on you? Their opinions are going to be, you didn't have to shoot her. You could have did XYZ. There was an alternative method you could have used in this situation. And I did see that, you know, the sheriff's department fired him because they said he didn't operate within the standards or the protocols of what could have been done. But Was that immediately after, or did they go through a thorough examination and investigation of what occurred to realize that she actually threw the pot of boiling hot water at him, which warranted him shooting her? Because I'm not so sure that they did. I'm not so sure that in this situation, how many cops would have not shot her? Even a black cop. That's the better question. You know, it's unfortunate that these things happen, and it's unfortunate that we lose individuals in these rare instances like this to these acts of gun violence by cops. And I don't mean to frame it as gun violence, but I really don't know how else to put it. It's gun violence. It's being shot. You being shot at and you getting shot. So it's violence with a gun. But is it inevitable? Is it unavoidable? In these split-second situations where these cops have to make a decision, me or you, they're going to choose themselves. They're trying to get back home to their families as well. They're not thinking about if you have a family, because you apparently aren't thinking about the fact that you have a family when you attempt to do something to a cop and it results in you being shot and possibly killed. We could also make the case as to why she didn't comply when he said put the pot down, or what made her get back up and throw the pot on him after she appeared to give a false surrender. We could ask all these questions because all these questions need answers. It's a sequence of events that leads to the outcome that we have now. And a lot of times when we're assessing these occurrences, we got to be able to take our emotions out of the situation and try to see it from both perspectives. Why didn't the woman listen? Why didn't she adhere to the directions that she was given? Or if she did, what prompted her to go back and attempt to throw the pot of boiling hot water at the officer? Now, they said she suffered from mental health issues. I've even seen on X that she may be schizophrenic. If this is the case, and these cops were not aware of this to begin with, then, I mean, it's just, yet again, unfortunate. There's not much you can do in these situations. These are split-second decisions, as I said, you or me. And a cop is almost certainly always going to choose himself, because cops don't go on duty to get scalded by hot water, to get stabbed, to get beat up, to get hit with a baseball bat, or to get shot. They serve and protect, but they also eliminate when they have to, because they have to serve and protect themselves as well as the community. We often forget that. Their job is to serve and protect themselves as well as the community, because if they get eliminated in the process, if they're murdered on the job of serving and protecting because they failed to serve and protect themselves first so that they can continue to serve and protect the community, then they've ultimately failed altogether anyway. I don't cry racism every time these things happen, because I know there's a reason outside of racism why it happened. The motive is rarely ever the cop is racist and just wants to kill a black person. The cop is typically trying to survive. The cop is typically trying to get back home. And if that means the cop has to kill an individual in order to do so, because that's the only way he sees fit in that split-second decision, then that's what he's going to do. And as I said, it's just unfortunate, but it happens. That's why cops give people orders. That's why they give them directions, so that it doesn't come to that, so you can avoid being shot. That is the whole point of a cop telling you, do X, Y, Z. Don't touch that. Don't make that move. That's the point. Because he's warning you that if you do that, that gives him justification to pull out his gun and potentially shoot you if he perceives that what you're doing is a threat to his life. It's not complicated. And I don't give a fuck who doesn't like it or how strongly you feel about it, how averse you are to cops when it comes to cops and black interactions. This is the reality. Because they don't have to adhere to what the public thinks they should do when it comes to them, and they're the ones in these immediate situations. They operate on the whim of their emotions in the moment and their judgment of what calls for what. And they'll deal with the consequences after the fact. But at least they'll be dealing with the consequences while they're alive. And as a black person, if you want to stay alive, when it comes to interacting with a cop, you might want to listen. That way, you won't end up in a body bag. A German woman on TikTok called out black women for their inability to have healthy relationships with black men, and she explained why it was easy for her to get a black man who I guess had previously dated black women, and why black women were no competition when it comes to competing with other cultures of women over their men. Let's take a look at this video.
I already knew I had him because there was simply no competition out there for me. But let's just look at it objectively. You had this average black American guy who now was able to choose between what he was dealing with before and somebody completely new. And let me tell you, the moment I stepped into that man's life, he really didn't know how to deal with my femininity because I was not loud. I was not screaming. I was not trying to, be louder than him. I didn't interrupt him because that's not something that I learned from home. If somebody would speak, and especially a man, you would let that man speak and then you would listen and then say whatever you have to say, right? So I was clean. I cooked. He didn't know what it was when a woman is actually in the room asking him, like, do you want something to drink? Before I got myself something to drink. Do you want something to eat? Before I started to eat my food, I would ask him, do you want to have a bite? I would come out of nowhere and just have a fruit bowl and just offer him some fruit. He didn't know none of this. So my husband, back then boyfriend, really thought this was a dream come true. He didn't know how to deal with none of this because all this me coming through, just being nurturing by nature, his peoples and his family didn't even do that for him. Like the family, there is no family unit. The average family, especially black American family, has barely a family unit. There is no breakfast, lunch, and dinner at set times. And these are things that I introduced my husband to with my family. Can you imagine that impact that I had on him back then? So gentlemen, do not be afraid of traveling. There are so many more women out there who are willing to take care of you. It doesn't matter if they're young. It doesn't matter if they're older. They are willing to take care of you, willing to work with you, willing to be a part of your life. You don't have to deal with whatever you are dealing with back in your hometown because unfortunately, a lot of American women are lost in the delusional world that they are living in, and they don't even understand that they are going to be lonely for a long time, if not for the rest of their life. They say by choice, but I don't believe them.
Can't disagree with anything that she said. That's a woman who's self-aware and who understands male nature. Something that black women tend to struggle with as a community, as a group, as a culture. Because I don't care what a woman believes about a man, what he should have done, what he should have accomplished. Every man just wants a woman who loves him, respects him, supports him, and is loyal to him. That's it. And he's going to go where the peace is, which is the one thing that black women as a community struggle to be able to provide in relationships when it comes to their men. Now, black women will say that it's the black men who are the problem. It's the men. The men do things. They lie and cheat, manipulate, deceive, gaslight. They make us react to them by the things that they do. They evoke those responses, those reactions out of us. Yes, but y'all pick those men. Not only do y'all pick those men, but y'all raise those men. The men who are going to treat y'all good, the men who is not going to lie to you, the man who's going to communicate, the man who's going to show you respect. You walk all over him. He ain't thug enough. He ain't hood enough. He don't challenge you enough. You don't want that man because you feel like he's a yes man. He's too agreeable and he's a pushover. Despite the fact that you don't even know him, that's merely based on your perception of his appearance and what you believe about his aura. And this is how black women put themselves in a hole. And I'm glad that this was another woman speaking from the outside, because we will say that women who aren't a part of the black community, men who aren't a part of the black community are not allowed to speak on it. And people outside of the black community will adhere to that bullshit as if they can't point out the observations about what they notice about the discrepancies, especially when it comes to our relationships and our mentalities and attitudes about relationships as a community. They're not allowed to point those out because, well, they don't want to be, I guess, ostracized from a community that they're not a part of, because surely criticism couldn't matter to them that much. They're not a part of the community. And then if you're in the community and you speak on it as I'm doing now, you get called a coon and a sellout, an Uncle Tom. You tap dancing for MASSEY. You using the white man's talking points. But yet we see this abnormal dynamic only in Black American culture in relationships, with the highest rates of marriage instability, highest rates of relationship dissatisfaction, highest infidelity rates, highest divorce rates, lowest marriage rates, and more divorces occur than marriages. No other community or culture do we see this phenomenon demonstrated, yet we don't want anyone outside the community to call it out because they can't speak on Black problems, and we don't want anyone within the community to speak on it because that's white people talking points, that's coon behavior. Well, then how the fuck are we supposed to solve the problem? How are we supposed to solve the problem and get the nuclear family back intact so that we can reap the benefits of what the nuclear family has reaped all throughout, as far back as we can go back, the history of the nuclear family? More stable households, a better income, which leads to a higher socioeconomic status, a higher quality of life, children who are mentally and emotionally healthier than being raised by single mothers, which is the predominant parent-child dynamic in the Black community. If we can't call that out, how are we going to fix it? If we can't acknowledge it and accept that that's the problem, then how are we going to fix it? Because we can't continue to just uplift and empower and pretend that that does nothing. That's putting cologne over musk. We got to rip the fucking Band-Aid off and realize that the wound has not healed. How are we supposed to do that? That's why I'm glad this woman outside of the community called it out, because this is indeed the truth. All average men, average, rich, doesn't matter. A man wants a woman who provides peace, who respects him, who supports him, who nurtures their relationship, is loyal to him, and gives him sex. That's what men want. We want women to provide us with respect, support, some nurture and care, loyalty, and peace. That's what we want. So when you have a community of women who struggles to give their community of men that, and always wants to blame the man, or when there's conflict feels the need to get disrespectful and emasculate, and is more concerned with herself and her image and her accolades, her qualifications, and competing with her man, having a penis swinging contest with her man. When you have a community of women who are more adept at doing those things than any other community of women, the men are going to be discouraged from dating those women. And when they experience softer, more feminine, more compassionate, more agreeable, less neurotic, when they experience those type of women, they're going to naturally gravitate to those type of women. It's not going to be even close in competition, because that's what men are receptive to in women. Women who are feminine, agreeable, who listen, who are submissive, who want to understand that man, who supports that man, who respects that man, even in conflict. That's what promotes appreciation and value in a woman from a man. And Black women can't seem to comprehend this. And there was some Black women who were eating her up on TikTok because, as I said, they're not allowed to speak about it. But the reality is, someone has to call it out. It needs to be from both internal and external sources. And then it has to be acknowledged within Black women themselves, regardless of how we got here. Now, I ain't going to blame the white man, slavery, oppression. I'm not blaming none of that, because we're all human beings and we all have our own agency over how we choose to go about life, how we conduct ourselves, the ways in which we respond and react to our environment, and the direction we choose to go once something is brought to our attention that is problematic or it has deleterious effects. Once those things have been evaluated by our self-awareness, then we can determine what's the next best course of action. And when it comes to relationships in the Black community, we don't want to do that. Especially the women. They don't want to do that. They just want to point the finger at Black men. And simps and panderers want to point the finger at black men and say, well, it's your fault. It can't be his fault when she chose him and when they raise those men to behave like that. They raise manipulative men. They raise killers. They raise men who gaslight. They raise abusive men as single mothers because they themselves do a lot of those things. They themselves are bitter black women, are bitter single mothers. And had they tried to be healthier and more relationship oriented in their own relationships, then maybe they wouldn't be raising those little boys alone who grow up to become those men that black women complain about all day on Instagram and TikTok. Just maybe. And then if they were able to accept some criticism and take some accountability and say, you know what, you're right. I'm going to change that about myself. I'm going to work on that. The next man I date, I'm going to try to do that. If they did that, if they took that approach, they would see that their dating outcomes would be much more effective. Not only would they attract healthier men, they would be more receptive to healthier men because typically we attract all kinds of people, but we're receptive to the people who are most like us. And that speaks volumes for the current state of black American relationships. We're receptive to the people who behave like us. If a black woman thinks she needs to be handled, then what type of black man do you think she's going to be receptive to? An abusive one. Because that's the only way you can handle a mouthy woman. You either punch her in the fucking face or you walk away. And most men aren't going to walk away from pussy. Not to mention some of the antagonistic proclivities that black women have when they want to compete or they're upset or they're angry. There are black women who egg black men on. That's the reality of the cesspool that is black American relationships at this point. So the black men out there who can attract softer, sweeter, feminine women like this German woman is explaining, a woman who knows her place, knows her role, and looks to help and fulfill and satisfy her man, that's where they're going to go. And black women will continue to say, where are all the good black men at? After they've realized they've had their fun and dated a bunch of abusive, narcissist, psychopathic men and have been emotionally damaged, have kids now, and can't find a man to grow old and happy with. Now, a lot of people are familiar with the channel The Desirable Truth, who walks around giving street interviews, asking questions about dating and relationships. Well, I happened to stumble across a clip from that channel of him asking a woman if she was married, and she said yes, and then she explains why she's married and the type of guy that she's married to. Take a look at this clip.
What's your age?
28.
Are you single right now?
No, I'm married now.
How long have you been married?
About a week.
How do you handle the bills in your household with your husband?
Right now, I pay 100% of the bills. Now that we're married, it should change. And so he's yet to pick up the bills yet.
Do you guys live together?
Yes, at my house.
Oh, so he moved in with you?
Yes.
Did you have to buy the wedding ring?
The wedding ring that I want, I would have to purchase it. It's about $1,500.
Why even put yourself in that position where you have to take care of the man?
I think it's because it's a little too late. Now we have a child together.
So because you had the child, you felt pressure to lock it in?
To an extent, yes.
How do you honestly feel about being the breadwinner and having to hold the house down?
It can be kind of stressful as a woman trying to, be a mom, hold the house down, do everything. But I said regardless, I was going to make the sacrifice because I wanted my daughter to have both of her parents.
So what makes you confident that it won't end in a divorce?
I don't know. I think it's because I don't like divorce.
So the positives to take away from that clip is we know that some women can actually operate on principle, on the fact that they want to be married and they think their child should be raised in a two-parent household, and that they're willing to be breadwinners, that they're willing to support the family if they have to. The negative side of that is that women aren't built to sustain that dynamic for very long. Now, I don't know this woman or how she ended up in this relationship, but like she said, they had a kid together, so she kind of felt pressured to get married because she wants her daughter to grow up in a two-parent household. But overall, this relationship is not going to last. And as a man, I don't know how you would feel confident and capable knowing that you have a woman providing for you 100% of the time. And this is one of the reasons why women are attracted to ambitious men. Now, we can blame her and say she had a baby by a bum. We can absolutely say that. Even though we don't know the man, their circumstances point to the fact that he's not the most viable option that she should have gotten with. But she seems to be responsible, disciplined, and level-headed. And in the grand scheme of things, you need a woman who's willing to be that. If you were to marry her and say you are the breadwinner, but you fall off, you lose your job, whatever the case may be, she needs to be willing to still sustain the family and be averse to divorce, because she stands on the fact that she believes that your kid should be brought up in a two-parent household, and that's the most safe and effective and healthy method to continue raising a child. So I commend her for that. But this relationship on the guy's behalf is where I honestly have an issue, because there are a lot of men out there like this who will let a woman take care of them because he's giving her some dick. And be okay with it. Be comfortable with that. And I think that makes the shittiest type of man that there is. Now, normally I don't like to do ought be's or should be's, but you have to have some foundation of morality when it comes to how you should behave and how you should operate, and the axioms in which you should operate in, the moral axioms in which you should operate in. And the peak of masculinity is having a desire to provide for your woman and your family, not your woman providing for you and your family 100% of the time. She's honestly the type of woman that you would want on your arm in terms of her discipline, her responsibility, and her willingness to do things. But that should make you as a man that much more adamant about taking care of your woman and your family. When you have a woman who's willing to do those things for you, who's willing to hold you down in the harshest moments, through the storm, through the fire, that should light a fire under your ass to want to get up and become the greatest fucking man you could ever be in the history of mankind. You don't want your woman taking care of you. See your woman breaking her back for you, taking care of the child, paying all the bills, you staying with her, you using her car. That should light a fire under your ass to become the world's greatest. Delusionally so. Because she's doing her part. This is what we ask our women to do. We ask our women to hold us down. We ask our women to be there. We ask our women to provide us with the level of confidence and support and inspiration for us to become the men that we want to be. And then when they do, we take advantage of it. I have a problem with that. And it doesn't have to be overnight. It doesn't have to happen overnight. But seeing a woman be that for you and do that for you should just motivate you to new atmospheres to reciprocate with interest. It should motivate you to respond in kind. Now, he better be mindful, because that stress is going to overwhelm her. Women are not equipped mentally or emotionally to withstand supporting an entire family by themselves. They didn't evolve to do that. They didn't evolve to be that. That's not their natural role. That's not their natural place. So he better step up to the plate soon, or divorce is imminent. If her sustaining the family becomes too prolonged, she'll get to a point where the relationship starts to dissipate. She starts to hold him in contempt and resent him for feeling like he isn't even trying to contribute or improve their situation. A woman will deal with you as long as she feels like you're trying and she continues to believe in you. Once she realizes that you're not trying, that belief she has in you, that confidence she has in you, starts to fade. And when she hits that threshold, the point of no return, there won't be much you can do to get her back, because she'll be so filled with contempt and resentment for how you didn't take the initiative, how you weren't proactive, that she won't want to retroactive get back with you, even if you offer her everything that you couldn't give her when you had her. And I think men need to learn that. I'm pretty sure she'd take accountability for everything that doesn't work out if things between them don't work out, because she seems to be a responsible and accountable individual based on the things that she's doing for her and her family currently. But as a man, it's okay to be in a relationship, even a marriage, in this situation, but you can't allow your woman to be in that position. You can't want her to be in that position, and you shouldn't be able to get any sleep at night knowing that she's the breadwinner and she's taking care of both you and your child or children. Now, I sit around and hear men complaining about the fact that women are online whores nowadays. Every woman has an OnlyFans, OnlyFans this, OnlyFans that, social media thoughts, Instagram models, etc., etc. Men are constantly complaining about women. And now I have an issue with it, because how many of you remember Bad Baby? The girl from Dr. Phil, the Catch Me Outside girl.
Catch me outside, how about that?
Huh?
Catch me outside, how about that?
Many of you may remember when she turned 18, she created an OnlyFans. And when she created an OnlyFans, she got hella subscribers. Well, she reported last week that in the 3 years that she's been doing OnlyFans, because she's now 21, I believe, she's 21 and going on 22, she has made $57 million from OnlyFans. $57 million in 3 years. Y'all have made this woman a multi-millionaire from OnlyFans. The same guys who sit online and complain about women, I would assume that most of them are subscribed to her OnlyFans. Because as a woman, how do you make $57 million on a platform simply from having a face and showing your body? That means the number of men that have to be subscribed to your content has to be damn near half, if not the majority of the population. Bad Baby posted her OnlyFans revenue and earnings on her IG story. We can see from April 1st, 2021 to July 11th, 2024 that she earned $24,1777.86 in subscriptions, $578,281.22 in tips, $32,480,699.40 in messages. Her gross was $71,332,786.34. Her net, $57,060,758.48. This is men. Men are to blame. Men are the problem. Men are incentivizing these women to join OnlyFans because men are the ones subscribing and sending these women messages. As a man, why do you feel compelled to join a woman's OnlyFans, subscribe to her content, message her, and spend money doing all of this shit? And it's a lot of you out there. Hell, it's probably a lot of you watching this video. Y'all can't complain that women are using their bodies to make money when y'all are paying them to see their bodies. There can't be a supply without a demand. Y'all do realize that, right? In order for something to be supplied, there has to be a demand for it. Men are creating rich women because they simply show their bodies online and you can't control your lust. You're willing to pay for it. You're willing to pay to see a normal, average, regular woman have sex on camera with a guy that you wish was you. You're willing to message a woman who many times I've heard you aren't even actually messaging the woman. This is what I've heard. You're willing to message basically an AI version of the woman, thinking that you're talking to the woman, and you're willing to pay to do that. I don't want to hear anybody sit around and complain about modern women in America when modern women in America are operating on the expenses of modern men in America. They can't accomplish any of this shit without the funding of men. We get online and in these spaces, the manosphere, the red pill, debating what women should and shouldn't be doing, trying to slut shame them, trying to guilt trip them for what they do. Yet, behind closed doors, men are the ones still aiding and abetting these women in accomplishing what they want to accomplish with minimal effort. They can be bird brains. They don't have to go to college. They don't have to get degrees. They can start OnlyFans, and they're confident in starting OnlyFans because they know the men will come. They know if they build it, the men will come. We have a society of desperate and lustful men who are making women millionaires and putting women in positions to look down on men because they make money selling their body online, and men have to go to work and make an honest living because we aren't afforded the same luxury of making money under the same circumstances. They make money from lascivious behavior, plastering their bodies online, and then look down on men because men don't make that much money. Damn sure ain't making $57 million in 3 years. Because we simply can't get it that easily. So if y'all are doing this, if y'all are the source of their revenue, then y'all cannot sit around and then cry about the way modern women are and how they're sluts and hoes, prostitutes, when the money comes easy because y'all are generating the revenue for them. Y'all are idiots. Go get a fucking hobby. Go get a real girlfriend. The same confidence that you have to subscribe to an OnlyFans account, approach a woman with that confidence. You don't need to make 6 figures. You don't need to be 6 feet. You don't need to have a 6-pack. Go approach a real woman. Touch grass. Get some fresh air. Put your best foot forward. Put your best effort forward with that real woman in real time and reality. Oh, she rejected you? Go approach another one. Because there's no excuse for men to be aiding women and them becoming millionaires from them selling their bodies online because you want to live a fantasy in your head that you've committed to in the form of monthly subscriptions, weekly messages, and daily checkups. As long as men continue to create the lifestyles that women desire, we cannot put the primary blame on women for desiring those lifestyles because they know that a man in some shape, form, or fashion is going to give it to them. And until we change that about ourselves as men, we demonstrate a little bit more dick discipline, a little bit more financial discipline, a little bit more financial responsibility. Until we start demonstrating those things, we have no one to blame but ourselves. I appreciate you guys for tuning in for this week's dosage of Q-Pilled. I'll catch you guys next week. Over and out.